Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hallowed Be Thy Game. And today I am so excited to share with you my tips and tricks for SMT5. Let's check it out. Now, before we begin, I want to go ahead and share with you all that there are only going to be very mild spoilers in this video. No story spoilers, but you might see a move or something that comes from later in the game. However, all my party members are entry-level demons. And with that, let's get to my first tip. Items are king. You always want to keep spyglasses and shards or gems on you at all times. And I say this because there is a mechanic that is usually with DLC or other things in previous entries. However, Mitamas, they always have shifting resistances, so you never know what they're going to be weak to. But if they're not weak to it, then they outright block it, which means they can be very difficult to nigh impossible at times to get on your own, especially if they're in a group. But if you keep spyglasses on you, this is an item that reveals the weakness of an enemy. So then you can just target the weakness with your other demons, or later in the game as you unlock more miracles and give the ability to your demons to use items, then it is very easy to take out these Mitamas. So there's always going to be return on investment by keeping a healthy stock of spyglasses and gems and shards on you later in the game. Also, another tip that might be helpful to somebody who's played previous SMT games is that I have personally found that during negotiations, which can always lead to just some epic troll moments. However, in this game, I have found that if you're giving items to a demon, they almost never peace out with them. I personally never found them to just leave once I gave them a bunch of items. So what I'm saying by this is, as you're trying to recruit demons into your party, you go through this kind of guesswork to figure out what the demon likes and how to get them to join your party. In previous games, as you gave them items, they could eventually just say, you know what, forget you, and they would just bounce, and you would lose all your whatever money or items you gave them, they would just leave with that. SMT5 is much less trolly in the sense that I personally found that once I got to the portion where I was giving them items, if I gave them the item, they never left with it and usually would join me. Now, I did have some instances where they asked for way too much money and I wasn't going to give that to them, so I just told them, yeah, no, you can pound sand. You're going to hear it everywhere, and it's legit the truth. Buffs and debuffs are king. They're god tier, and I would always make sure you have the ability to lower attack, lower defenses, boost your evasion, boost your damage. These things are never going to be a bad thing to keep constantly in circulation in your party. And a lot of times they're just straight up mandatory for a lot of these end of chapter bosses. Alright, my next tip is demon affinities. So, one thing I really loved from Apocalypse that they've carried over into 5 is that certain demons are going to be better at certain spells or moves. What I mean by that is, if you look it up in the top right corner of their status screen, you can see that they have plus and minuses to certain categories. What this means is that they are proficient in that. So while in the past it could be beneficial to make sure, let's say Jack Frost has every spell in the game, and as long as he had a really good magic stat, then he would be great at those abilities, and sometimes could be better at, let's say, fire spells than a fire demon. But in SMT5, Jack Frost is very proficient in ice magic or Bufu magic, but he would maybe have a negative proficiency elsewhere. That's just an example. Now, you'll have some demons that are really good at buffs, some demons that are really good at healing, some at magic, and whatever the case may be. Always pay attention to this, because the more proficient they are in ability, the cheaper that item is going to be for them. I mean, that magic ability is going to be for them to use. You know, it'll hit harder. It's just great all around. So definitely be aware of the affinities to structure your party correctly. Which is what's fun to me, is that now that I'm in the very, very late game, post-game part of SMT5, I'm finding that I don't just keep a stock of 3 demons. I have essentially my physical damage powerhouse. I have my Augie magic powerhouse. And, you know, I just have essentially this whole arsenal of demons, which just gives a lot more fun and strategizing and min-maxing to do, which I am always a fan of and I can never get enough of. Now there's a new feature to SMT5 that I am head over heels with because it makes min-maxing a heck of a lot easier, and as its essence skills. Now as you negotiate with demons, level them up, do side quests, you're going to be rewarded with that demon's essence. This is an item that you can take to the Cathedral of Shadows and then impart those skills that are indicative to that demon and just be able to fuse them into any demon you want. So let's say you got a really amazing healer, but they don't have like a recarm or the ability to resurrect. Find a demon with that essence skill and then fuse it directly into them. You don't lose anything, you get to choose all the skills that go over. And then you'll eventually unlock an app point feature, or a miracle point feature, I should say, for Nahabino, that allows you to change his affinities. So essentially, if you have a baseline weakness to fire and you're about to fight a fire demon, we'll just find an essence skill affinity from a demon that, let's say, just outright blocks fire. And then you can change Nahabino's affinities to be able to match that. Now, until you get later in the game, you're always going to have a downside, but eventually you're going to find just these and crazy powerful affinity resistances later in the game. It's a lot of fun. It makes it feel very, makes power progression feel very satisfying. Now, glory points are essentially app points from SMT4 and 4 Apocalypse. As you're out exploring, you're going to find these special nodes. They look like giant crystals floating in the air. They give a crap ton of glory points. And if you talk to Gustav, the shopkeeper, early in the game, you're going to be able to go on a quest-long hunt for Memon. These are little red demons hidden throughout all the maps. They're very difficult to find sometimes. It's a really fun exploration mechanic, but as you find them, you'll gain glory points. You, in turn, use these glory points to be able to purchase passive bonuses and buffs to Nahabino and your entire party. The glory points that I highly recommend is demon skills and divine skills at top priority. This essentially unlocks more skills that you can attach to yourself and your party members. The reason this is so amazing is you're then in turn able to pass on more abilities through fusion, which is just absolutely going to be king for those later fights in the game, and building that min-maxed party. Now, my next tip is going to be decide early on if you want to be a strength or a magic build. I do believe there is plenty of leeway up until like level 20 or so. I tended to put my points into vitality until I was sure which way I wanted to go. I knew early on I wanted to be a strength build just because I absolutely just love Nocturne, and I've been wanting a strength build to be extremely powerful again. And SMT5 allows both strength and magic to be absolutely viable. And I think strength builds are beginner friendly. That's my 2 cents. Let me know down in the comments what build you would recommend to a newcomer. Magic builds are always amazing because you have the ability to target multiple weaknesses, so there is that. However, later in the game, I think a strength build begins to shine pretty bright. Side quests are always going to be worthwhile, and they can reward essences or other quest chains. Now, one of the biggest tips I can give, because I was very unsure about this, SMT games always have a quote-unquote true ending. The true ending of this game is absolutely tied to side quests, okay? Late game side quests, so be aware. And if you want to know more about that, let me know down in the comments, and I can kind of direct you to the correct resources and such like that if you're interested. But I won't spoil anything outside of that, though. So my next tip is, at the end of each zone, you're going to come across a fox-looking demon. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. Please forgive me. Anyways, that fox demon allows you to pay him a pretty decent amount of Maka, and he will notate where all the Memon are on your map. For the first area or two, this isn't absolutely necessary, but I'm going to tell you, that last area of the game, those Memon are some next level hidden. So, anyways, it's a very useful resource. I had a blast with this. I kind of wish games like Breath of the Wild could have done this with the the little Korok seeds, but that's a story for another day. Now, you will have a companion that will tag along with you for each zone. It's going to change depending on what zone or part of the story you're in. And they're going to notate treasure locations on your map. I think these are always worth stopping at because they're going to award you with some pretty useful stuff. Now, they can in turn into fights, but those fights are usually with a Matama, which can give you a ton of money, items like grimoires that you can use to level your demons, or gospels to allow you to level Nahabino, or even the blue ones, which I can't remember exactly what I think they give you glory crystals. Essentially, they just give you a crap ton of glory that you can use on miracles. Highly recommend always stopping at these locations because on top of that, they give you items that allow you to increase the passive skill points of your demons. So there are reports I've heard where people will take a level 40 demon and just dump a bunch of skill points into it and raise its magic stat, and they'll keep a healer for like from level 40 to the end of the game. I think that's really cool because one of the best healers in the game you get at level 42, and she is fantastic, and the thought of being able to keep her to the end of the game, kind of wish I'd known that a little earlier. And with that, that covers my tips and tricks for SMT5 that I wish I knew earlier in the game. Now, there's obviously a ton more. I didn't even get to scratch the surface with Fusion, but I didn't really want to give any visual spoilers. So if there is some demand for that, I will give you some nitty-gritty Fusion tips that I use in future videos and other tips and tricks. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. If I don't know the answer, then I'm sure one of the viewers will be able to help out as well. Now, let me know down in the comments what tip you wish you had known earlier in SMT5 for you veterans out there. Like this video if you liked it. Thank you all so much for subscribing. The support has just been amazing. I'm head over heels in love with SMT5. And until then, I'll see you all in DOT next time.